Welcome to Cult and Classic.
Welcome, friends and fiends, to a whole new season of Cult and Classic Films podcast. I am your host, as ever, film critic and comedian Nate Wyckoff. I am very excited, nay, I am stoked to bring you two special guests who are responsible for a movie that I had the pleasure of seeing a ways back and is finally reaching wide release. And I'm very, very excited about this. Please welcome digitally, give me a clap, to Craig and Bonnie from Straight On Till Morning. Craig, I always pronounce your last name incorrectly.
Yes, most people do. Most people do. So that's not to be, that's not unheard of.
It is. So how do
you
you
want
say
me to
it?
tell you?
I do.
It's Ouellette, Craig Ouellette.
Ouellette. Okay. I try and in my brain I was like Towlette, Ouellette, but it's not. It's Ouellette. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And Bonnie Jean Tyer, of course, is yours is easier, and it's the nice three name, which I always think of because you're a Western fan, so you get the
Yes,
three. You get the three names.
definitely.
So
Outlaw Josie Wales.
Outlaw Josie Wales, Outlaw Bonnie Jean Tyer.
That's right.
So you have a movie coming out, which I know has been a labor of love for a pretty long time. Those of us, everybody listening, I think at this point knows that films take a long time from inception to launch. This one probably even longer than normal. But I have no qualms saying that it came out really excellent. I wouldn't have you here if not. This is the second time I've actually interviewed you. I had the pleasure of interviewing you and some of the cast and crew, or the crew and producers at Cinema Diverse here in Palm Springs in 2024. And I was blown away. It was actually the most well-produced, well-crafted film of that series. And there were some great films in the film fest, but for an independent feature, there are zero signs of budgetary restrictions, zero signs of talent difficulty. I'm sure that there were plenty of things going on throughout production over time that made it difficult. But this was a studio release as far as the viewers are going to be concerned. So,
Yay. Thank you. That's super kind. Thank you.
well,
Thank you.
I mean, as someone who releases ultra low budget, micro budget, boutique backyard films, I can say it is often surprising. I forget that people do this as their job sometimes, and they know what they're doing, and you guys brought those in. So first, if you were to describe Straight On Till Morning to, I guess you have, as a pitch to a distributor, how would you say it to audiences? Like, what would be the short form of Straight On Till Morning?
Oh boy. Well, there's a lot of different ways that we do it. The comparison model one is Queer Thelma and Louise meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a dash of misery is how I do it. How about you, Bonnie?
I usually say it's Thelma and Louise meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's my go-to.
I can very
Or
much see
Lesbian
that.
Road Trip Gone Wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
Road,
It is
Road Trip Gone Wrong is one I too. It definitely falls into that category of horror
for
movie.
sure. I like that. Yeah, if you were to see it on like a Netflix tag, it would be Road Trip. They might even try and squeeze something weird like coming of age in there, or coming out probably would be it. And then horror, and
Yep.
then psychological horror, and then you get some really oddball ones like just things that really are irrelevant to the thing, like lesbian chainsaw. Even though there's no chainsaw. You know what? Well, is there a chainsaw? I can't remember.
No.
No.
No
Okay. I
chainsaw.
was gonna say there's no chainsaw in this film.
I mean, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but like there's
Well,
other.
this is a different film as
We
well.
have some. Yeah, it is. It is.
It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the template for all Road Trip Gone Wrong films, even though they'd existed before. I don't think anybody quite had reached the level of Cannibal Family Slaughterhouse run-in before in the bad road trip film category.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably almost put it on a tone-wise as Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Love Lies Bleeding, because there is this really something I loved about it is that you have this tonal shift from the beginning where you have a really that perfect setup to a road trip movie at self-discovery moment where your co-lead character, obviously Bonnie, you play one of a waitress. What's your character's name, Bonnie? I'm sorry, my notes here.
Caitlin.
Caitlin. That's right. So you play a character who is in a probably not the best relationship at the time. And and Kelsey Christian plays Danny Dupree, who is sort of taking off to potentially relaunch a music career and sort of do what she really wants with life, right? It's sort of like a rebirth moment for her is what she's hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys end up just sort of going along together, and there's a sort of falling in love process, this closeness that builds, and then at the moment of, and this isn't a spoiler, I don't think to say, at the moment of crescendo of a relationship of some kind, then we get this terrible, awful things gone wrong moment of departure from that. As we
Slight departure.
quite a departure, but you know, there are quite a few films that feel like they are literally two different films put together. And something that really impressed me about Straight On to Morning is that I don't think that is accurate here. Because one, we know it's a horror film, so we know there's going to be something traumatic at some point. But the thread of these characters' relationship, and how it plays out, especially as a new relationship, throughout is really this strong thread that carries us through the movie, and it carries the characters. I mean, there are moments where Bonnie, your character is enraged at Kelsey's character. You know, it's very, despite the sort of unreal, we would hope, unreal circumstances of these characters' situation. I have to specify that these days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that,
hopefully unreal.
I know, right? You have this. It's very sort of recognizable for audiences, I think, of early relationship time. You know, you don't fully know each other from all angles yet. Not everything is as fully resolved as it is on the surface most of the time, and we get to see that play out during this this sort of captivity terror scenario that plays out. I do want to talk about production though. So that's the overall of the film. And from the audience perspective, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is sort of unavoidable, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's one of the greatest horror films of all time, personally. Certainly a high for Tobe Hooper, but it's also got a great deal of emotional depth because we have time with these characters. Whereas in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we're given clues to the characters, but that's not the core of it. The core of it is here's normal life. Here's something happening to normal life that is truly awful and unexpected. We have that in your film, but we're actually more focused on the characters' process throughout this situation, how they go from captive to the end. And while there's some things we may be like expecting a beat and maybe it comes, there's other times where truly it's sort of unexpected. And I think part of that is because Bonnie, you and Kelsey's characters, you sort of alternate who's the primary at any given time. It really is a co-lead scenario, which is impressive because we get Kelsey first in the film. And then unlike films where you always carry through that protagonist as the sole protagonist, or you have one of those attempts at shock where you end a protagonist and pick up somebody else, you really do trade off. What was the process of that for you? Because there are definitely moments when you are the focal point, and yet then you are background point and Kelsey is the focal point.
Well, for me, focus-wise, the intention was always her, regardless. You know, my focus is on her, what she's doing, what she needs from me, where is she safe right now, is she not? So even in the scenes where I'm carrying it, she is almost always my focus in that scene. So in that sense, I didn't need to shift gears too much, or separate them in that kind of way. It was more of like keeping a list of priorities, and sometimes she would drop down to number 2 or number 3. But she was always in the top 3 of things to keep in the back of my mind or always remember or be connected to in some kind of way.
Well, that makes sense too, because I think of Orlando Bloom in the back of Lord of the Rings, always mugging at these insane faces. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's definitely none of that. And a lot of it is, I think, you couldn't escape from something like that if you wanted to, because it is such a personal, narrow field of view on these characters most of the time. In fact, even when they're even when the sort of villainous characters are there, it's a small cast, and that's sort of the effectiveness of keeping it so narrow at any given time is that we get the full emotion and we don't have this pull from other areas so much. In fact, I almost felt as I was watching the film that I was getting yanked back and forth, and not in a bad way as focus, but as in a, oh my God, I forgot this is going on. Oh, what is happening here? And it becomes more disconcerting to have two characters in this peril. Whereas in a normal horror film of this type, just like a slasher film, there's fodder, right? You're waiting to see who is filed off until the final. Craig, was this sort of dual character setup how you intended from the beginning for this film?
I mean, the idea of this movie was always a romance movie for the first part and then a horror movie for the second part. And that was what Neil, the co-writer, started with. And for me, it was always about getting to know these characters, falling in love with these characters, and then putting them through this, crazy suspenseful scenario. Because I think suspense and tension is entirely based on whether you actually give a shit about the characters. Because if you don't care about the characters, you do get that slasher movie where it's like, all right, let's see how they chop off this person's head. Like, that's what you're rooting for, is the actual destruction of our, quote unquote heroes. And this movie, I really wanted the audience to care about the characters and care about what they wanted beyond the movie. Like, like in the first part of the movie when it's like, I wanted them to be like, oh yeah, I want them to get together. I want them to achieve their dreams. I want whatever the goals are that they have. Like, I wanted the audience to be so wrapped up in that they really want to see them succeed and fight these, which therefore makes it hopefully scarier and more suspenseful as they encounter the somewhat stressful events of the movie that happens to these poor gals. So that was always the design, to have it be sort of two final girls. Like, if you have a movie that has two final girls, whoa, balloons.
Right, I forget it does that.
If you have a movie with two final girls, then you don't know who's going to live or die. Will one or the other live or die? Will they both live or die? We have no idea. And I think that also adds to the suspense. It's the not knowing how it's going to turn out. Because like you say, we can walk into a lot of movies and say, okay, Tom Cruise is our lead. Like, Tom Cruise is going to live and he's going to succeed because it's Tom Cruise. And every once in a while they, fuck with you, and that doesn't happen. But for the most part, I wanted to avoid that while still giving, the goods of a horror movie, a road trip gone wrong horror movie. I wanted to try and weave in some emotional connection that was more, really. More.
Yeah, more connection for sure. And I mean, there's always, we, as a strictly viewer, we don't like to think about sometimes the devices that are used, the sort of shorthand characters and things that are used to sort of create the scene we're seeing. But as a filmmaker and as an actor, it's sort of like you understand when your character is simply to play a role in progressing whatever is occurring, or your character is critical to the experience of the film, which I think is sort of when we say, I wanted my characters to have depth, right? What it is, or I want them to be likable. It's, I want the audience to connect with them, and they are, as you said, Bonnie, they're they're the top priority, right, for the audience. And that's one of those interesting things that I think is extremely effective in Straight On to Morning, is the villains are villains to us. If you put it on paper, it's not, you could say, I think you can see a lot of similarities between something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where even though they're horrendous, Leatherface has become an icon, right? He's the character that we think about now. Jason is the character, Freddy Krueger, etc. But in this, we never lose that sense that we are rooting for our protagonists. And so the villains remain terrible to us, even though they could be, turned into, a Halloween mask, you know what I mean? Character. That's not what we want from the movie. We're thinking about Kelsey and Bonnie's characters, which is, I think, a success. Something that I did want to talk about too, I remember, is Cinema Diverse, where I saw this film, is a queer-focused film festival. And obviously our two leads have a queer relationship in this film. But Bonnie, when you came in, I remember us speaking of the fact that you were like, oh, we have to, if you're having a lesbian relationship, you need to have a queer person here and actually involved.
For
And
sure.
you came in. What was the process for you in actually helping to shape the story of these two characters?
Well, yeah, my original role in this at all was just giving feedback to the story as a queer person. And I feel like, Craig's group of people, he has some outer influences as well, but there was some mixed reviews in terms of how certain characters would be, which things were believable and whatnot. And so I cared about these two characters individually in the sense that for Caitlin, a lot of people gave some pushback about how she comes out. She just kind of like bursts into the queer world. She just, without any fear, goes, all right, here I go. And I was protective of that concept because that was my coming out experience. I mean, honestly, the whole movie's a metaphor for my coming out experience.
That's terrifying.
But, you know,
It's a documentary, folks. It's a documentary.
it's a documentary. No, I busted out of the closet. It was like a light bulb coming on for me. And I felt like Caitlin would absolutely have an aspect of that. And a similar part of it was not really understanding that you were even doing anything gay until afterwards. You know, like I bet it never occurred in Caitlin's head that it was gay until she's sitting across from Maria Olsen being like, are you gay? And then the thoughts of, wait, that was gay, because that was my experience. I was just like, this girl's really attractive. I want to know her more. I want to go after her. And then later on, I connected the dots. It was like a delayed effect in terms of the logic that pushed me through this experience. And then on the other hand of it, for Danny, you have an out queer person, and that usually comes with a lot of stereotypes and a lot of different things. And so while I didn't want to lean into and neither did Craig, the stereotype of like, if you're going to be the more masculine presenting lesbian, you have to have a buzz cut and wear a white wife beater. I guess we call them wife pleasers now. That's not the stereotype that we have to do with Danny. She can still be more feminine as a masculine. There's plenty of feminine women relationships in general. So trying to make her someone who's attractive to the female gaze while staying both masculine and feminine. It was like a whole world to create for her in terms of her style in general. And then within that, not then pushing on this masculine energy. As a queer person, I often date people that present masculine, but they're actually more feminine. And I'm the one who comes in and I take care of the more masculine things as the more feminine presenting person. So taking stereotypes, using some of them, taking stereotypes that are known within the queer world more than they are to the heteronormative world. Mixing all of that in terms of like how we have this character on paper, and then again, how we're presenting this character in terms of how we're going to dress them, makeup and hair and all of that stuff. Because that was my order of entering this project, was one as a queer consultant, then as a wardrobe person and producer, and then lastly we cast me.
Well, it's an interesting process because having seen the movie, I couldn't imagine it without you in it. And I think, like you said, it probably heavily comes, of course, from your performance is fantastic, but also the genuine honesty of the characters. I love how you brought up the fact that it's not necessarily about rejecting all stereotype content, because stereotype typically does come from a certain reason. Now, there's a lot of incorrect assumptions and generalizations involved in them. But at the same time, you have all sorts of, it's sort of like the queerness is not all of you or all of this person or all of Danny or Caitlin, right? It's one of those things where there's all sorts of things. I mean, Danny, yes, she's lesbian. She's also a performer, right? There's an image element there. There's a Joan Jett, like definitely a Joan Jett sort of inspiration vibe there too. Another queer icon, very feminine at the same time, very strong, masculine energy as well. And I mean, anybody that knows me in my personal life, I am definitely the feminine energy. My wife could both mentally and physically beat me up at any given time. She's off working out right now. No, but She's a yoga instructor and has been for years, and she's just all around. I'm sitting here in a booth with lights blowing out my bad skin here, just trying to present normal, and she's out there looking fantastic. And I wouldn't have it any other way. She might,
Yeah,
but
you're
I
living
wouldn't.
the dream.
Right. Yeah. And I like that you said too, Caitlin's coming out experience in the film. It feels completely believable and realistic. And like you said, that was mirroring your experience. And I think part of it too, that as script writers, I know in my experience, it's sometimes hard to get over is understanding that a person's personality actually affects their life and regardless of stereotype or expectation. And you, I've only met you a few times, but you are a strong, confident person as your approach. And so it makes sense that Caitlin's character would approach it in that way. Like, why would I be doing something wrong? This is what I want. And then it's not until there's an outside observation that becomes all of the societal and the sort of label questions. And it's really interesting that it comes in, of course, during this, hostage situation. And I think that's again part of it why we never lose the thread of your character's emotional state and personal journey to discovery throughout this. And so it's a really, really it adds a great deal of depth and keeps us focused on both of you as opposed to, the sort of the villains, which certainly could be on their own visual and content wise sort of favorite monsters, right? So I really appreciate that, and it elevates the movie to something that is beyond genre, and I think that's what really stood out to me on this. And it exceeded my expectations because on paper, as I said, when I was going in, I didn't know much about it. It's a film fest. You get a little snippet and then you go in blind pretty much. And I was surprised at the reaction that I had watching the film. And I mean, I'm on the podcast all the time, so listeners hear this, but when I spoke to both of you, I was speaking as a fan most of the time, and I had to pull back to some technical aspects because I was so happy with how the movie progressed and superseded stereotypical expectations despite having this templated setup. Let's talk about the longevity of production. So this is right, right. We are in 2026, and your movie is going to be released on physical and streaming on demand, right? Here, and it's going to come out on March 10th. So if you were listening to this pod and it's past March 10th, 2026, then you need to go buy and stream the movie. And if it's before then, mark your calendars. So, and I don't know how it would be beforehand unless you hacked my computer because I'm not
I don't
watching
either.
this.
Right.
So,
and if you get the DVD and Blu-ray, there's a bunch of extra features on it too. So we got lots of Q&A stuff and a commentary where I talk really fast, so I can enjoy that. And also the original opening short film and some deleted scenes, and all sorts of stuff. So a little insight if you like indie movies and how they were made and want to hear some stories. There's definitely a lot there.
well, I'm expecting my autograph copy. So just as a heads up. And I'll pay for it. Support the arts, everyone. Pay for this podcast. Donate. CultandClassicFilms.com. So when did you said it started with a short? I actually I didn't know that, or I don't remember that.
Not exactly. So I was actually just talking to the co-writer Neil just the other day, literally yesterday, and
Neil McLaughlin, right?
Neil McLaughlin, yeah. I was introduced to him in 2009, in almost exactly March 10th of 2009, from a mutual friend, and he said, "I think I have a movie that you would like, a script that you would like," and it was a first or second draft of Straight On to Morning, when it was a little bit more From Dusk Till Dawn, where it's like 45 minutes of a love story and 45 minutes of a horror movie, and his vision for it was always True Romance meets Hostel, was where it started from. And it wasn't a queer story at the time, but we can talk about that later. But so that's when I met him, gave some notes, tried to make it in 2010, didn't come together. And then had different producers option it over time and different people, trying to raise money and this and that and whatnot. And then finally in 2017, when all those options had run out, I was like, okay, I'm just leading the charge. I'm just gonna do this myself. And with whatever people I can gather to go on this insane journey with me. And then in 20, it took a long time to find the house. Like finding the house took like 2 years, like literally looking all around Colorado, looking all around California, looking on movie sites. And I found a few places that could have worked, you know, and this and that and money, and it's money and money, and it always comes down to money. And finally, I found that this house near St. Louis, which is what we ultimately used. It's friends of my aunt and uncle. I was there for Thanksgiving, and my aunt was like, "Hey, let's go check out some houses, you know, that may work for your movie." And the first house we drove up to was this house, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm shooting this in St. Louis. Like, this is what's happening." And because, you know, I had never thought about that. Like, what are those logistics? And it's really like 45 minutes southwest of St. Louis, so it's you know, it's in the sticks. And so yeah, so the people were super nice who owned the house, Jim and Carol. And so then it was like, okay, we got the house. So it's like, all right, you know, I got enough money. I'm like, I think I can shoot everything that takes place in the house, and then we'll use that to raise the money for the rest of the movie. So then we're revving up. I cast Kelsey in the spring of 2018. We're getting moving along. We had this and that and this and that coming together. And then Carol, the woman of the house, got breast cancer. And so we had to obviously stop, because there are things in life that are far more important than movies, and health is one of them. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, let's shift it and let's shoot the opening scene of the movie, or the opening part of the movie in California, and then use that to raise the money to shoot the rest of the movie once she gets better. And fortunately, she did get better. And so in the fall of 2018, we shot for 5 days. We were going to shoot for 9 days, and for reasons I won't get into, we ended up not doing that. We shot for 5 days, which is the opening sequence of the movie, and then a couple other scenes in the movie, one of which has been completely cut out of the movie, so you can watch it on the deleted scenes, folks. And then it was like, okay, cool. Now let's use that opening scene to raise money. So brought that to AFM in 2019. I would present it, and people would be like, so do people really want to watch a lesbian movie? And I'm like, yeah, people want to watch a lesbian movie. Like, these are the kind of feedback I got. And other feedback was when people would watch the opening sequence, which if you've seen is, you know, has some good moments in it. And people would be like, well, where are the lesbians? And I'm like, can't you see how good the quality of the opening scene is? Like, can't you like use your imagination? So this is the kind of feedback you get at a film market. And then there was a pandemic.
Tell me about that. No, just kidding. Please don't.
And then, so come spring of 2021, I was like, I spent so much money and so much time and so much effort on this. I got to get it off my computer and have it out there. So then, thanks to brainstorming with Bonnie and some other friends, came up with an idea of how to turn the opening sequence into a standalone short film that told a complete story. So it's sort of like it's the same stuff, but it's also a different story that's being told. So then that went to festivals in the fall of 2021. That led to Movie Maker Production Services, which expands your budget by putting money into it. We can talk about that more in detail if you want to. And then at that point, it was like I asked a whole bunch of people for money, and they said, yes, let's go. And so spring of 2022 is when we shot the bulk of it for like 3 weeks plus in Missouri. And then we shot intended pickups after I'd edited a couple versions of it in the spring of 2023. And then as I was editing, we would do screenings at my house and get feedback. And we shot inserts all through 2023, even shooting the credit sequence as late as, you know, February of 2024. And then we had the premiere at Dances with Films in June of 2024, and then still kept doing some coloring and stuff. And so Cinema Diverse was actually the first time the final, you know, cut of the movie was seen, was actually at Cinema Diverse. And then it played at festivals for a year and interviewed distributors forever, and we found a great one. And here we are. And
the distributor is
Disrupt Entertainment.
Disrupt Entertainment. And that's important for all the filmmakers out there to listen. Do your homework on distributors. I hammer this point home, but I can't tell you how many amazing filmmakers I work with only because I was lucky enough that they got horribly, horribly screwed in the beginning and are willing to work with a small-time person who they know will not do so. So I'm very excited to see that. And I'm also grateful that I got to see the first screening of the final. And So it actually that's not too terrible. 2018 essentially from really getting the cast going to 2024. That's not so bad.
2017 is when I found the house, so we'll call it
Right,
from
we'll call
27.
it that. I also it's impressive to me. I didn't know it was shot. The house was in St. Louis because actually I assumed somewhere California and Colorado would have been my guess.
Mhm.
Simply because everything matched pretty well. But I think part of that with the house is even with the non-human elements, everything feels very vignetted, very narrowed, very focused.
Mhm.
You don't see outside of the house property in wide. You just don't, and you don't need to because you're focusing on the house and then the characters in the scene and then the house. You know what I mean? And then there's a
Yeah.
barn.
That was
So
part of the goal, was to not really leave Danny and Caitlin's point of view very much and
mhm,
only know what they know,
mhm,
so that you're really on that ride. You know, in theory, if you care about the characters, then you're really on that ride and feeling what they're feeling, hopefully.
mhm. And I mean it worked for me. But coming back to that, so Bonnie, you were involved early in several different roles. Um, at what point were you like, I want this character?
I don't know if I do. I
Bonnie, I
didn't.
hate to tell you this, we're going to recast you.
Um, so I actually originally auditioned for the ex-girlfriend that's now in the deleted scenes. Way, way back in the day. And that was before I ever read the script. And then when I read the script, I thought like, nah, I mean, it's a great character, but I don't see myself as Caitlin at all. And the first round of auditions, Greg asked the entire production team to audition. Just in case we already have the people here in our midst, let's go ahead and do it that way. So we all auditioned, and the rest of the team was like Bonnie for Caitlin. And I said, actually, no. No, it's not the role for me. I don't think so. I did not at all see myself as Caitlin. I felt like more of Danny than Caitlin. And I felt like my energy would be too similar to hers, so it just wouldn't make any sense. And then we went through lots and lots of auditions. I was the casting director, and we had two different people that we were down to, two very different people. And half the team wanted one of them, half the team wanted the other, but neither one of them really satisfied everybody in terms of what we wanted for the character. And I think the main thing that we were like, which of these personalities do we believe is someone that's about to take off on this adventure and hold her own in a fight against Virgil in any kind of way? So who has that? And it was one had the other. And then so it came down to chemistry, and we wanted to do chemistry reads with them across from Kelsey and Maria. And Craig asked me to warm them up for the reads so that they weren't going in just cold with the auditionees. And that was it right there. Craig was like, I need to see you read with them. I need to see it happen. And the whole time I was like, I'll do it, but it's a bad idea. It's just a bad idea. I'll do it, but it's a bad idea. And then I do still remember the day he called me and was like, I've been looking at the recordings and I think you're Caitlin. And I was like, it's the kind of role I can't say no to because that would be stupid for me in my career. But as your producer, I have to tell you that is the stupidest thing you could do. I'm in charge of your wardrobe, half of your props. I'm like at that time, I was the main producer moving things along. I was the one that was like in the meetings, orchestrating everything to get everything moving. So when you put me in the role of traumatized girl handcuffed to the wall, what can I do? I also felt like Caitlin was an athlete, and I've never in my life been an athlete. And that was the one thing I was fighting for Caitlin. So in our final two actors, we wanted to make sure they were both in some form of way an athlete, because this character does so much that if she were to get injured during the shoot, we'd be done. We'd be ruined. And so as a producer, I'm like, you really want to cast an athlete, and I'm not that. And Craig was like, I really don't care. We'll make it work. And I will say, I did get in the best shape of my life for the role, but I also had so many injuries because I'm not a coordinated athlete.
Minor
So
injuries.
once I got into it, I was like, I guess
Saves
it
money
makes
on effects,
sense.
Bonnie. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
like the blood's real is what we're getting at. The blood is real.
Yeah, I had the most amount of injuries by a lot. And And who knows what's to blame? Time management, my I can't even say the word. I'm so
Athleticism.
athleticism. Yeah, I'm not any of those things. But we did it. We did survive at the very least. But I think it was in the middle of the production that I decided I actually am glad I have the role, because I would hate as a producer to watch someone else go through this.
It's so funny, that perspective, because watching the film, and I mean, part of it is always, you as an actor, you bring elements of yourself to it, which change the trajectory of the impression that the audience gets. And so you kind of are able to do that at a certain point. And so I'm sure some of that was to play, but what was the sensation of seeing other people seeing stuff in you that you were like, I don't see that?
It
Um,
was so strange.
because to me, it just is very clearly the character for you. And part of it, I think what you're talking about with the sort of the strength play, or the masculine energy versus masculine energy concern, is that, and maybe this is how it changed based on casting, but Danny is the sort of aggressor is not a good term for it, but the one pursuing you to an extent in the beginning. But once the relationship turns physical, you are 100% in control, and Danny is the one that is actually hesitant, and so that, which also felt very real, because anyone who's been in more than one relationship probably has experienced something where people are much different in a one-on-one intimate relationship than they are on the surface. And it's a matter of that safety, that willingness to risk, the risk reward that we do in our subconscious. Is this, no, this is right, we're going to do this, which I think kind of plays into the rest of the movie as a whole as well, because it's a constant question in both Caitlin and Danny's head of what is the next thing, and am I going to do it knowing that the risk is insane, right? And as far as the physicality, I actually didn't know that either, because I just assumed, as someone who is incredibly uncoordinated, I tried to go surfing once, and I literally got up on the board 0 times, and I just had bruises up and down the inner parts of my legs trying to just hold on to that board to even get there. No coordination. I didn't see that. I assumed that you were actually, I'm like, you must have done track or something. So
There's a lot of
so
running.
yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't care how many takes or days or months or years it would have taken. I'd have still been filming that. Um, Craig, I get the impression that you knew much earlier that Bonnie was who you wanted for the role.
No, I and kind of not. Like I'm one of the things I do with casting, because I think casting is 50% of a director's job, right? If you cast the right people, then your job is much easier, and so I mean, I take my time. I probably drive actors crazy, because like I'll do, callback, chemistry read, because in the end it's like, especially in a love story, like if those leads don't have chemistry, movie's dead. Like that's it. That's like, why are we wasting our time, right? So I'd rather take the time in the casting process to do it. So I really was like really looking at the different people, what did they bring, listening to the other parts of the team's feedback, like, because I mean, I can have my idea, but if 12 people tell me you're wrong, I mean, you better look at that idea, and maybe you are wrong. Like it's like, and then sometimes, but. So it was just one of those things, like Bonnie had such a chemistry with Kelsey and a chemistry with Maria. And it's like Maria's been a part of this movie since 2010. Like I cast her in 2010 in the first iteration. Mm-hmm. And she's not, like when she turns it on, it's like she will literally just run over an actor that can't keep up. Like she's too strong of an actress. So it's like, yeah. It's I was like, okay, let's see, that became, I'm like, well, that's going to be a test. Like if our other folks who were great in their own, like Bonnie was saying, in their own different unique ways, they were great. It's like, how do they play off of this? Like, do we buy that this person can stand toe to toe, in a psychological battle with Maria? And it's like, and
Maria Olsen, she plays the matriarch of this deranged family, and she really does. I mean, she's, in everything she's done that I've seen her in, she's a powerhouse. And in this one is my favorite of all the roles, because she is, it's not a spoiler, she's a wheelchair bound character who is truly the most powerful person in this family. And and that's phenomenal. So I can totally see that intimidating a lot of actors who don't have a great deal of either experience or just confidence heading into a role. And that is, you know, especially in indie film, there's a lot of cases where people are like, oh, I got so and so, and then everybody, they can't get any, you know, they have people who haven't done a lot before, and you don't have the confidence, and it just crushes them every time, and then you get a very strange, lopsided, you know, demo reel. Um,
Yeah.
so you both actually you work together, correct? Outside of in your
I
non-film life job.
It is true. It's hard to believe, but independent filmmakers often have survival jobs, and we do. We work at the same place.
And I think I mean, you don't have to say exactly what it is, but it's like a positivity training thing,
Oh,
right? Or
it's a
something.
team building company. Yeah, it's great. I mean, honestly, it is. It's very positive. It's great company. I'll
Never had that experience
sign
with an
up.
employer,
You
so I'm not
know,
sure I'm not sure I believe you. That's the most unbelievable thing out of anything you've said and the movie so far is that there's a positive experience. Um, don't become a teacher, kids. I'm just kidding. Just don't become a teacher in the United States. So that's awesome. And so you both knew. It's interesting because you both knew each other, but you
Mhm.
also work in a role in your day job that is all about working together with other people with differing abilities, ideas, viewpoints, concepts. Do you think that helped in the process of making an actual film?
Probably. Like it's hard to say
It's
specifically.
so integrated you don't even know.
You know, it's like because it's definitely a good because a lot of people that work there are movie industry types, music types. So it's like I mean James who is in the opening sequence and David who's in the opening sequence. They're both from Feet First as well, and there's other folks that helped out and were involved from the movie. I mean, I find it that it's definitely is get you used to walking into a scenario where like you have very little information except for what the goal is and walk in and connect with people and it's so fun when we show up to events and there's sometimes people who are grumbly about the like team building and I thought
This
to my
this one.
every time I
This one
hear
right here.
somebody say that I say we gotcha. Like, and by the end of it, they are the most like so into it and so excited, and they're always like, "Oh, it's so much fun! I had no idea it could be so much fun." And so it's one of those things where it's like it's sort of fun to hear the resistance and be like, all we have to do is what we're doing, and most likely you're going to come around. Like, I don't have to convince you to come around. We're just going to do what we do and be ourselves and play these games and do these things, and that definitely helps to some degree, I think, with a group of
Well,
people.
and I think too, you both have a welcoming presentation that you have, to yourselves. Like you're probably not even aware of it. There's someone a good friend, comedian Devin Green said to me, it's like the best compliment I've ever gotten is you have a presence. Right? Like you people know, because I'm like, I don't do anything special as far as I'm concerned. Like I meet people who do a hell of a lot more than me and are much better known than me. And yet she's like, well, no, but people know. And I've yet to be able to turn that into a profitable scenario, but I
Right?
appreciate it. I appreciate it. And that is one of those things where I think it does help, and it also helps sell your vision because when people like you, they want to trust you. It doesn't mean they will. I've met a lot of people who are just, I don't, unfortunately, they're like, hey, can we have, we want cult and classic films. I'm like, I don't see any guarantee of follow through or ability to get this where it needs to be for me to even be helpful. Um, and yet, so it's a combination of those two things. You have the confidence of vision, and you both are very excellent at conveying ideas and making people want to talk to you. It's not all the time. I mean, after Cinema Diverse, I probably monopolized your entire team's time by making sure I had to go to every single person, Jen on set, and everybody just sort of to talk to them for a great deal of time. It's not that common that a crew holds people in sort of the lobby for that long. And I think it's not just because the product was great, but because you all had excellent things to say and you're able to convey it in a way that's engaging. Um, I have to ask, Does Feet First ever make people do that freaking bridge out of cardboard?
No.
Thank God. The last team building thing I had, we were given, this is how, see, this is why people are scared. I, it's a bunch of teachers, by the way, not engineers, not engineering teachers, English teachers. And we are set into a room and divided into teams of like 5. And one of us, and I was chosen because apparently I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot, to go out and be given a set of instructions on how to build a cardboard bridge, and you do it in pieces. And then they take the instructions away after 5 minutes and send you in to explain it to your team. You build this bridge. And this is where, like, my first major job out of high school was at an insurance company. And so this is where my brain was going, like, bang, 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 go, just leave, just quit right now. Was then once every team makes their bridge, they put them together. And the goal is that you all will walk across this cardboard bridge. It's about 5 feet off the ground. And yes, at one point, there was a center that just collapsed under people. And I can't, if I were to write a scene, I could not have done it so effectively. So people would be like, "That's a little too like, you know, this isn't supposed to be slapstick. This is supposed to be a satire." And I'm like, "No, really, you don't understand. This happened. Like a teamwork bridge collapsed under the team. Like that's, you know." So I was just curious. I figured that.
No, we play games that are hopefully way more fun than that. Lots of different kinds of events and amazing.
I didn't say it wasn't fun. The following was interesting. But you know, I mean, it would have, if I could have picked the people, it would have been a little better. Okay.
That's the whole point of team building, right? Is sometimes you know,
Right.
when you're trying to build, you know, like build a team to make a movie, it's like over the course of time, I've made, you know, the choice to be like, I'm going to choose people that I like and not worry about their skills, or choose people that have the skills. What I used to do is I'd be like, I'll choose someone who's really good at their job, even if they're not the best personality, because, you know, they have some sort of talent. Fuck that theory, dudes. Like choose people you like to work with. Like choose people who also are good at the job. Because if they don't have any skills, but you like to work with them, it's like, well, that's great. Like go hang out and have a beer. But like, so it's like, it's finding that middle ground. But if I had to, you know, choose someone who's a good collaborator that I like, who's a little less skilled at the thing than somebody who's, you know, more skilled, but less pleasant to be around. Like I'm going to
Or somebody that you like that's trainable, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you, I had no business doing tech for theater shows, professional theater shows, yet when I showed up several times and the tech people didn't, they were like, "You're on tech." And I'm like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And they're like, "Well, an idiot could do it, so you could probably do it." And it's like, you know, and I made some idiotic mistakes, but it is true. Like just being a fun, nice, just responsible person gets you a shocking amount in this industry, probably any industry. But it
It's
is,
being open to learn too, and not have an ego that says, "Well, this is my way. I know what's going on." It's like, all right, dude, like relax.
right, right.
You know?
There's a reason we all, you know, every PA knows like, no, these people are great to work with. That's a great celebrity. And the other ones, they're like, this person can eat dog shit because they're awful. You know, like that's everybody has that. And you know, the one out of the 2,000 PAs will become somebody that would hire that person and won't, for that reason. And so thinking of the production side of this, and the final product, because the final product is actually very difficult to, I found it a great movie to rhapsodize film theory over and narrative criticism, which is excellent. And I love that. As far as an actual film to sort of break down based on production, it's actually harder because it is very well made. And so often the easiest points to discuss in film production are where we see a seam of some kind. You know, we see a little bit of a distance, and possibly because of the time of gestation as well, those are sort of invisible, which is what you want. And that's why I say that for an independent feature, I don't see any calling cards of independent features.
Yay.
But as far as the production goes, I'm assuming, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't irritatingly ask, "So your movie's coming out now. What's the next project you're working on?" Which is what everybody loves to hear. But when you do another project, which I better be happening, and if it's not, we're gonna have a conversation off the air. what is your what are you going into it as differently than you did this one?
Mm. All right, that's good. That's
I try and
good.
throw you off. I watch your face, and then I'm like, I'll do this one.
Uh-huh. Anyway, Bonnie, you can go first. What's
Um,
going on?
well, I'm in the middle of a horror film that Craig is helping me make as well. It's about a cult, and
Love
I'm doing
cults.
it in batch shootings. So like every depends on everyone's availability because it's a massive cast. Every other month we do a weekend, and then if we have more availability, we'll do a couple of weekends. But we just do like 3 days at a time to get all the pieces together. And basically, each time we shoot, we're wrapping out a different location in the film. I'm just breaking it down like that because whenever you're making a movie out of your own money, it's much easier to just spread it out over time. And then you can edit between the shoot days as well. So that way you can do your pickups as you continue shooting. Instead of
Yeah.
having like a year later, I looked pretty different.
Sure did, but somehow no one's ever noticed.
And so we're trying to like do pickups, and
Blood
I'm
and mud covers a lot.
well, no, the worst one I think was when I was like freshly showered. And I'm like, I got so skinny and so tan for that role, and then I was like, all right, I'm done. Back to being pale and whatever I want to be. And then a year later, we did pickups, and I was like, oh, I'm really pale naturally. Like, I
Color
put on
grading.
layers of tanner for that production, and
We've been
like every
color
other.
correcting this scene for what the hell is going on?
Well, like luckily I'm like in the window light during that shot, so it just looked bright.
The big
Yeah,
one is the
it's not my
hair.
skin that's pale, it's that the light is bright.
Yeah, my hair also changes a bit. It
I
grows 4 inches randomly in the movie.
there was
Nice.
one shoot I saw where the person had a nose job for pickups, and it was not as noticeable as the fact that their hair had different color roots. It was
Mm.
blindingly distracting. For some reason, hair seems to be. It's like how footsteps will throw off a whole scene. The
Mhm.
hair just completely changes. Like it's you just I wouldn't. It's like you wouldn't recognize them in the in the bookstore or something. Um, so that's fun. I always love pickup shots. It's also though I'm impressed that throughout the shoot time, and it sounds like with your new product, your new feature as well, Bonnie, people stick with that. You get actors that will stick with it and keep going on
Yeah,
the time
definitely.
because that is always, I mean, that is a struggle. Especially, I find that for these especially low budget features that have a very small personal budget, um, consist keeping people involved is very difficult on the cast. Because I mean on the cast because the crew it's behind the scenes. Yes, your cinematography can change dramatically and cause some issues, but really people notice the cast changes.
Hmm.
Was there any difficulty with that in Straight On Till Morning?
Fortunately, bless Kelsey for looking the same from 2018 through 2023. She does not now. Like she has changed her hairstyle and stuff like that. Enough
She's
that it looks
free.
good. Right? Yeah,
It's
she's
almost
free.
like she changed her hair so Craig couldn't call her for
Yeah, you're not doing any more pickups, Greg.
No more
Um,
pickups.
but it's
Shoot a
it's
cat in the window.
so I'm super grateful for that. I mean, it's like the keen observer would be like, oh, interesting. Kelsey's arms aren't as strong and from that cut to that cut because went the first shoot to the second one. But for the most part, it's like that was Kelsey's the only person that was there in the 2018 shoot and also the 2024 and the 2022 and 2023 shoots. Kelsey was the only consistent person. And then 2022 to 2023, there are some if a keen observer might notice some hair differences on some people. But it wasn't anything. It's not like somebody suddenly had green hair or like, Bonnie, chopped it to a bob cut or something like that.
Hmm.
It wasn't me.
No, it's just like the basement. My hair is like 4 inches longer and I have more roots, but you can't tell because we're in the basement.
And it's all dusty and filthy and yeah. So in that sense, we lucked out. We lucked out in that sense. And maybe Kelsey, I always ask her. I said, if you're ever going to cut your hair, please just let me know ahead of time so we can make sure to plan ahead of time. And so
Gotta wig it.
I think she was very kind too. Now, or maybe that was what she felt like looking. She didn't want to cut her hair. It's like she
Bonnie's like,
didn't call me up and say,
no.
"I want to cut my hair, Craig." But But yeah, going back, you asked the question about what would, how would I do it differently, or what would I take into the next one? I have this theory about lean filmmaking. I didn't call it that for Straight On to Morning. I called it SEAL Team 6 filmmaking, but that's, a mouthful. So I heard lean filmmaking at a film festival. I'm like, that's it. Where you have a, smaller crew so you can, in smaller cast so you can shoot for more days. And the theory, like, I still think the theory works, but we got a little bit out of control on Straight On to Morning in terms of gear. We ended up bringing in bigger lights and shooting on bigger cameras than all of my personal stuff exists. So that, and then we didn't have the resources to do it. So for Brendan, the gaffer was like a G&E team of one, essentially, with occasionally an extra person or occasionally, producer or two that would be helping. So, and we ended up with much bigger lights than I originally intended. I mean, they look great, and so in that sense, it paid off in that regard. But he every day he's just like huffing these, 70-pound lights, and there's two of them, and and I'm just like, out there wrapping cables, and he's such a trooper, and he works so hard on this movie, and so it's like, I would rather use smaller lights because nowadays we don't need those lights. Like, I mean, if I always, even though the creator I know is an $80 million movie, but it's like they shot it on FX3s. It looks incredible. I mean, I just actually rewatched it. I mean, I wish the writing was a little better, whatever. We won't get into that. But it looks incredible, and they're using, tiny cameras. They're using at high ISO, so they literally just have lights that they're plugging into, LED lights plugging into house power that look like the sun coming through a window. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's what we can do as independent filmmakers. We don't need, like, I'm not
cheap.
I'm not a gear
so
snob.
Cheap.
Like, buy your gear, buy the best stuff that you can, own it, because that's what allowed us to shoot so many pickups. Mm-hmm. Is because at that point we were just using gear that I owned, with the exception of one lighting thing we had to get for lightning flashes. Everything after the main shoot was stuff that I owned. So as a result, it's like, cool, well, we got the lights, we got the gear, we got the thing, we got this. So then you can spend your money on the production design and the stuff that's in front of the camera, because, nowadays it's like, I know there's plenty of friends I have right now that'll be like, whatever, Craig, Alexa forever. And I'm not saying it's not a great camera, but if that's a $1,500 a day rental, I can buy a Blackmagic Pocket 4K camera for $1,500. And buy the stuff, and it's literally 2 days worth of rentals. I can just keep shooting,
That's the thing too.
And there's even better cameras now, that's like the Ronin 4D. Like, sign me up for that, baby, man. Like, let's go. So
that's the thing though too, is I think, and this is something that people who come out of the college film system, I think, have maybe a unless they're independently wealthy already. People who went to my school, is Steven Spielberg's kid. You know what I mean? Like, they could, if they wanted to, they could make whatever they want, right off the bat. There's no private wealth could do it. They don't even need anything else. But most of us, when you come out of a film school, I find that there's this radical misunderstanding of what you need versus what you can do with. So it's not necessarily the idea of like, minimalism for the sake of minimalism, but it's, okay, well, can I get that 4K? Okay, well, if I get that 4K instead of this, what can I do with this? What else can I get? What else can I add? Because it's just like I teach the fiction writers. So, like, consistency is really key, because I could shoot something on my phone, and if I stick with the phone, it's going to look better than if I'm back and forth. And people don't really realize how many shots are actually shot on phones right now.
There's a couple in Straight On to Morning that are either a phone or like a travel zoom camera when I was driving across the country. And
seriously,
like
it's crazy. It really is crazy. And that's the other thing is we're working on here at Colton Classic Films, like an online course program where it's like, make a movie, a feature with what you have right now. Yeah. Right. And it's possible. I mean, we released a film, from Cherokee Nation, Blood Red Riverbed. It's fully shot on phone, the entire thing, and it was fully edited on phone, which is wild, right? It's really wild. And so 15-year-olds have the power to do a feature film right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Da Vinci is free.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
it's free. Like, you know,
And they'll know how to use it better
it's
than
only
I do.
$300 to get the everything package, and you don't even
Hmm.
have to have it. So it's like, I mean, there's, it's got a learning curve, but it's, it's worth it.
Well, I am very excited for Straight On to Morning. Everyone, listen. Keep your ears to the ground, but definitely stream the movie. I suggest buying the physical package because it is definitely one that will look good on your shelf, and you won't regret having it. And I'm excited to see those extras. For the last couple minutes here, I want to play a game that we call Anything But Movies. Um, if you were to talk about one thing right now, Craig, that had nothing to do with movies, what would it be?
Travel.
You want to travel?
Oh, I used to travel all the time, and then I made this movie.
Now you travel for the movie.
Well, I was
I
gonna
do
say,
travel for the movie, and I'm always grateful for that. But
you don't like going to Spokane for the film fest, you don't?
oh, I would totally would. But yeah, the I love traveling. I love backpacking, backpacker travel. Like, carry as little as you can with you so that you're as free to move wherever you want to go. I mean, the world of backpacking, unfortunately, in my opinion, unfortunately, has changed dramatically thanks to that
Political
very
system.
thing
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
I was gonna
It's
say,
like,
and political things don't have anything to do with it either.
no, no.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's another thing. But like
it's
the
so
fact
easy
that
to get Canadian filmmakers to come to my studio right now. I mean,
it's so easy. Uh, but yeah, I just love traveling, and I love that because it's like as long as you're willing to get off the internet and get off of social media and get off of talking to your friends back home, because of what it used to be, and there's people who backpack before I backpack, but it's like you had to go to an internet cafe, sign in for like an hour, and you could write some emails back home and stuff like that. But otherwise, you were there, you were present, and if you didn't talk to strangers, you were by yourself. And maybe that's what you wanted to be for that day, but that's okay. But if you didn't make friends, you were going to literally be lonely and, or whatever. So I met so many cool people from so many different countries. I mean, I literally just had somebody from, New Zealand yesterday or the day before that I hadn't talked to in 10 years, like reconnect, thanks to social media, ironically. But, it's just one of those things that's like, I just love to be in that situation, and it's stressful at first, and then within a couple days I get my sea legs, my SEE legs back, and then I'm off to the races, and it's really fun to solo travel and make new friends and just not have to worry about the logistics of a team and not have to worry, like, be able to step away from that.
it's
I had a
also
friend.
something that is a lot easier for those of us who are white straight men. I will say that the solo trips, I'm going to recommend certain people not solo trip at the moment.
I'll say that, but I will say in all of my solo travels, like I always meet female travelers. There's always tons of them out there, different people of different races and all sorts of stuff. So don't, use your wits when you're going to different countries. Like, don't just be like, I'm going to go to Rio and carry all my expensive gear out. You guess what? You're going to get robbed. Like, but
Slam, Rio.
I love Rio, by the way. But I have a friend who's been robbed there twice. So, that's how it is. But no, it's like you just got to be smart. It's just like you would in any big city. Like, if you're flashing fancy stuff, you're telling people that you're somebody to rob. So it's like, use your street smarts. But it's like I've met so many cool people, and like, I'm itching to go back to Africa. I'm itching to go back to. I've never been to Japan and never been to Egypt. And Antarctica. So many people in Antarctica, but that's my last continent to get to.
Oof.
So that would be the thing I could talk for hours about. It'd be
Well, I'm going to India in 2 weeks for
Oh,
the
get
first
ready.
time. And yeah, I'm
We're in
listen,
India.
listen, I only have two things on my agenda. It's for a wedding, so I guess three. But my focus is the Tiger Sanctuary and the Monkey Temple. People are not so much my gig, but I will speaking of, that's why people aren't my gig. But animals, let's do it.
What
I'll
part of
die in a
India?
tiger pen. That's, you know what?
Fine.
That's
What
the way to do it.
what part of India are you going to?
Jaipur.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Good.
nothing about anything except reading Reddit, which is terrifying. So I just said, like, well,
It
we're
is
gonna just.
terrifying. It's I went to India in 2015 for a month, and it was, it's wonderful, it's fabulous, it's difficult, it's challenging, it's the most culture shock I've ever had in any country I've been to.
Really? All right.
Because
We'll
it
have to
is
compare notes because mine is. I have a feeling that people I'm going with, I will probably be pretty comfortable.
right.
If it were me, things would be different.
Yeah.
I
You won't
would.
get your picture taken a lot, I can guarantee you that.
Oh, really?
You'll know what it's like to be famous.
Okay, well, travel. That is something that is one day I hope to do. The only thing is now when I travel, I know that the temptation is going to be, it's like, do I have to go back? What's the rate? What's the exchange rate here? What are the
Yeah.
telecommute options? Yeah.
This
Bonnie,
mountain seems really nice.
exactly. Like, yeah, this is a great valley, trading one for the other. Bonnie, if you had one thing to talk about right now, aside from movies, what would it be?
I mean, usually I would also say travel. I have a camper van and I can go everywhere. And so, pro tip for the girls, just bundle up at every gas station. So I travel alone, sure, but then whenever I make stops, I kind of dude it up. I put on a big hoodie, I tuck my ponytail away, and I just, don't draw attention to the fact that I'm a female traveling by myself because it is sketchy, even as a white woman, to be out there in the world and be like, well, someone could notice me. I also have weapons in every
I
corner
was
of
going to
my.
say, check every single legal allowance for everything from bear mace to a handgun. I hate to say it,
I
but
don't
do it.
even follow the legal allowances, but I was recently pulled over and I have like a giant knife in my glove box. It takes up like my whole glove box. And I had to just say to the cop, like, I actually don't know the laws here, so I'm sorry. I'm not crazy, I promise. And his feedback was, well, what's legal in every state in America is a flamethrower.
Well, that's you know what this is something I
Okay.
didn't need. This is something I didn't need to know because my eBay is already out of control. Um,
Never mind
but
the fact that there's a fire ban on most of the East Coast and you'll be
I know.
arrested for having a
I was
fire.
I was gonna
But
say
a
this. I
flamethrower.
could probably guess which state this is in, and I can also guess who he voted for. Um,
Flamethrower. Have
that's
you
awesome.
shot a flamethrower, Nate? Have you shot a
I have
flamethrower?
not tried a flamethrower. I mean, I grew up in the country. I've
It's
tried a lot,
quite
but
the
the
experience.
flamethrower is that is not a barn fires maybe, but not a flamethrower. I want to say one more thing before we go. Bonnie, you are also a what I think seems like an established drag performer at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I'm a little offended that you haven't booked down here in Palm Springs with your character. What's your character's name?
Woody Banger, he would.
Woody Banger, he would. Woody Banger, he would. Yes. So check that out. And Woody Banger has his own Instagram, correct?
Yeah. I'm pretty
All
sure
right.
it's Woody dot Banger or something. It's what
I think it
there's
is.
not
Yeah.
very many Woody Bangers when you look us up.
Which is
Um,
shocking. Now that we've said it on this, there's going to be like five more in every
yeah.
small town, and Germany where they listen to us. And so, okay, so where can people find you? Loveisscary.com is the film. Check it out
Yep.
there. You can find links to buy it. You can also find all sorts of great information on it, as well as the awesome publicity still posters. Like the
Yep.
poster really blew everyone away the first time we saw it. That's such a, if you're watching this, which you should be, or you could be listening, it is behind our lovely guests' heads. But Craig Ouellette, where can people find you?
Yeah, like you said, the website, I'll give you a little pitch on the website and I'll tell you. The website's also going to have links to the soundtrack. The soundtrack's available on Spotify and Apple Music and all those
That
places.
fantastic soundtrack by.
Mostly Kelsey Christian sings on most of the songs.
Mhm.
So we had original songs for the movie because she's a musician. So we wanted to have, her part of her journey be told through the songs. So and there's different arrangements of some of the different songs as well. So you can check that out on Spotify. The As far as tracking me down, I got at Craigo Film is pretty much everything on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, although I don't do anything on TikTok. Although by the time you see this, there might be a lot more TikTok stuff up there because we're promoting the movie. And on YouTube, have a lot of short films on YouTube, including some award-winning ones called Strip and other things like that. And then at Straight On Till Morning Movie is also on Instagram and
Instagram.
Facebook. And maybe by the time you see this TikTok, things are being set up. Things are being set up. And
As they should be, as they should. Well, Bonnie,
and Bon,
correct. I was gonna say, well, Bonnie, so where can people find you?
I am at Bon Sauce on all things, like BONN and then sauce, SAUCE. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I think those are all the things I do. Yeah.
All right.
there's one other things too. If you happen to like traveling and want to read my travel blogs from back in the day, CraigOTravels.com. I have a travel blog from lots of different trips around the world, as well as Burning Man and stuff like that. So,
Oh, Burning Man. I'll have to connect at Burning Man someday when I
By
get
the
a
way,
huh?
sorry. Sorry. You mentioned Devin Green earlier. Devin's Joel Bryant is somebody who we work with at Feet First, who is knows Devin, and so
Of course, yeah, I know Joel as well.
yeah. So that's so funny. Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Great
you said,
comedian.
I was going to say it earlier, and I was like, oh wait, yeah.
It's so funny. No, and that's the thing. If anybody's interested, which I know so many of you are out there in doing film, being film, location does matter. Get in touch with people, whether it's online and in person, but also don't be afraid to travel. Although it's shocking how much wider the film world and the entertainment world got. For me, when I relocated to the West Coast, there are places near you everywhere that are hubs. So check it out. Make sure to get that travel on at the very least. Thank you so much, Craig and Bonnie. I am very excited for this to come out. It's been a long time coming, but it's going to come out the way it's supposed to. And you're welcome back anytime, Bonnie. When your project gets where you want to talk about it, come on, we'll talk about it. Craig, when you actually tell me what the next project is,
I
which
realized that I never answered that question, right? Well, I get distracted, folks. It's movies. Yeah, I have I'll just do it right now in the sign up. I got two scripts that are ready to go, meaning they ready for financing and stuff like that. One's a twist on a desert massacre. It's called Mojave Massacre, and then the other one's Miss Mary Madness, which is the beginning of a world. I hope the beginning of a universe. And yeah, working on those scripts. I'm also working on Mary as a novel and a graphic novel, and yeah, so those are the bigger projects.
well, when those get rolling and you want to talk about it, come back on, especially that graphic novel. That was my first career out of high school, so we will be talking about that. Thank you all so much, and as always, catch our next episode of Cult and Classic Films podcast. You can find us at cultandclassicfilms.com. You can also find our film releases there. Pick them up. Money goes directly to the filmmakers, and we've got a lot of great stuff coming down the pipe. So enjoy, have a great day, and stay safe and stay weird.
Well, thanks, Nate. Take care, everybody. Bye.